Well, if you have your Bible, turn to the 27th chapter of Genesis, and we're going to finish this up. My mind went a totally different direction as I started putting this together, but here just about 10 minutes ago, I changed my mind again. And so I'm just going to tell you that I'm set up. My Bible is tabbed for everything I want for the direction I was going to go, and I'm not going that way. So I don't even know what we're going to do here tonight. I am one of those that I was up for several hours overnight too, and I can feel it right now. My eyes are dry, and I'm not sure if my thoughts are as sharp as they should be. So y'all bear with me, and we'll finish up chapter 27 here, and it just really makes some points. Jacob and Esau, as we looked at last week, are brothers, and they're twin brothers. But they're as diametrically opposite of one another, almost as night is today. Esau, huh? I do know how that goes. I understand this passage clearly, but my brother and I, we love each other. It's just kind of it's sometimes awkward, sometimes how we relate to one another. And as family goes, sometimes you can do or say the most insignificant thing and just set the other one off. And you don't even know it until it's already there. I can relate to Jacob and Esau. I mean, I really think that it just took just the littlest thing to really set them off on one another. But it culminated in the fact that Jacob kind of, stole the birthright. And we saw that chapter 25. Esau was hungry. Jacob was the chef. He made a nice pot of soup and whatever it was. He ended up trading that pot of soup for the birthright from Esau, just so Esau could satisfy his flesh. That's a spiritual picture right there for us. Esau was more concerned about the here and now. He's not thinking about what's going to happen in the future. Well, last week we saw that Jacob, his mother Rebekah, told him, I overheard Esau and Isaac in the tent. Isaac's old now. He thinks he's getting ready to die. Go out into the field and shoot something. Bring me some venison, the King James says. It's just meat. It's whatever that he could find and hunt. And evidently he didn't know the difference because they went to their flock and chose some fatted little goats and killed them. And it was awesome to Isaac. But Jacob, by his mother's guidance, he covered himself with the goat skins and on his neck and his arms, and he put on Esau's clothing so that he could have the aroma, the smell of the wild, of the field. And he went into his father, whose eyesight was poor. He could not see, but he could hear. He knew there was something up, but he felt and he smelled, and then he passed the blessing of the progenitor on to Jacob instead of Isaac, or instead of Esau. And Jacob just got up and left. Once it was done, he's out the door. I've done what Mom said to do, and I don't know that he understands the full ramifications yet of what's about to happen. So last week we saw him leaving. Esau has been out hunting. He has now bagged some game, and he's going to prepare that. And let's just read. It's more of a storyline, and I don't have a lot of scriptures that we're going to just throw out there with this now because my mind changed on this. But I've got some thoughts I'm going to share as we read through this. We're going to pick up in verse 30. We ended 29 last week, and we're going to pick up at verse 30 and just go to the end of this chapter. And if you feel something move in your heart and you want to share, just speak up. We're going to have just kind of that open forum tonight. So in verse 30 it says, "Now it came about, as soon as Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, that Jacob had hardly gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau his brother came in from his hunting. And he also made savory meat, food, and brought it to his father. And he said to his father, 'Let my father rise and eat of his son's game, his venison, that he may bless me.' And so here Esau's been out. I don't know if it was hard to find the game or if he found it quickly and it just took time to prepare. But he's come in now and he's prepared. And Isaac his father in verse 32 said to him, 'Who are you?' Who are you? Listen, my son was just here. I sniffed him and I felt him. He was just here and I blessed him. Who are you? And remember, Isaac's eyesight has failed. He's not able to see, but he hears the voice of his son. And Esau said, I am your son, your firstborn, Esau. I'm your firstborn. I've done what you said, Dad. Yeah, Dad, I know you're getting a little older now, but remember, a few hours ago you told me to go hunt. And Dad, I did it. I've come back and I've prepared this food for you that you may eat and bless. And he says, bless me. I want you to remember the whole purpose of this whole chapter 27 is that Esau believes he's about to be blessed by his dad. When Isaac realizes what's going on, it says Isaac trembled violently. Very exceedingly, the King James says. And I don't know, it's not a tremble of fear, but he realizes, I have been deceived. And it's probably an anger. I don't know, I'll be honest, in my life, I don't know that I have ever been angry to the point where I would shake, or I've seen people when they get angry, they spit and slobber. They move a lot. I don't recall that ever being me, but I've seen it, and I can just imagine. Isaac he realizes what's happened, and all of a sudden he's overwhelmed with anger toward his youngest son, Jacob, because he smelled Esau, he felt Esau, but he heard Jacob earlier. And now he's trembling. It says that he trembled violently. And he said, who was he then that hunted game and brought it into me, that I ate all of it before you came and blessed him? Yes, he shall be blessed. The blessing's been given. Listen, we're so trifle today in how we treat people. When we bless people, it's very superficial. It's not that deep, passionate, committed type of a blessing. When Esau lost this right here, Isaac suddenly he understands the blessing that I gave has been given. And so the violence is there. Verse 34 says, then when Esau heard the words of his father, he cried out with an exceedingly great and a bitter cry. And he said to his father, bless me, even me also, O father. Esau cries out, I wish this was Greek. I like Greek better than Hebrew, but even the verbs in the Hebrew right here is the gist of this is a very very passionate, very strong crying out. And I thought about turning my mic off and just trying to imitate this, but I'm afraid, we're in a small room. Y'all understand this. Esau cries out, Father, bless me. And it's loud and it's deep. It's from his heart. It's not something that's just an act. Esau's understanding, all of a sudden the light bulb came on in his heart, and he's thinking, Dad, what about me? What's going to happen to me? And he cries out, and he says, Father, you can bless me, bless even me, oh my Father. And he said to him, your brother came deceitfully. Subtlety is what the King James says right here. It is deceitful. There's no way around that. Jacob posed himself as something he was not. Last week we shared several verses about lying, about God hates those who are deceptive, those who tell a lie. And here Jacob or Isaac says, your brother came deceitfully and has taken away your blessing. He took it. It's already been given and he's gone. Verse 36, he said to him, is he not rightly named Jacob? For he has supplanted me these 2 times. Once over a pot of stew, he has taken the firstborn right, the birthright from me. And now he's taken He's taken the blessing from me. Twice he's done this now. He has stepped into my place. He has supplanted me these 2 times. He's taken away my birthright. Now he's also taken away my blessing. And he says, have you not reserved a blessing for me? Dad, is there anything left? It's hard for us to really conceptualize this. The blessing meant more. It's more than just a promise. It's kind of like the deed that's unbreakable. And there's nothing left. The Son, it's all been written out. It's been signed. We've had it sealed. The document is done. He receives it all. Well, Dad, is there nothing? And so you can see the picture going on right now in Esau's heart. He says, have you not reserved just a little for me? Verse 37, Isaac replied to Esau and said, behold, I have made him your master. The King James says Lord. And that's what it is. He's your ruler. He's the one who rules over everything that is mine. I have made him your master. And all his relatives I have given to him as servants. With a grain and a new wine I have sustained him. Now, as for you then, what can I do for you, my son? What is it? What can I do? Isaac wants to. He wants to give Esau something. He loves his sons. He probably loved them both. He cherished Esau more than Jacob. And he wants to give something to him. What can I do? And the blessing that he gives to Jacob, or to Esau here, is something that I think you have to really break it down to get it. And I think the New American Standard translates this a little clearer than what the King James does. And let me just read verse 39. Then Isaac his father answered him and said, behold, away from the fertility of the earth shall be your dwelling, and away from the dew of heaven from above. He says you're going to be pushed away from the soil, the tilling of the ground. It reminds me of Cain back in chapter 4 and 5 of Genesis, when Cain was cast out because he killed his brother Abel, and God drove him away from the ground itself. He was one who tended the ground, and God said, you won't be able to do that anymore. Well, here Isaac says to Esau, away from the fertility of the earth. The King James says, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth. And when you break it down, when you look into the Hebrew context right here, it literally talks about being pushed away from it. It's not that you're going to receive the fruit of it. You're being pushed away from this, and also away from the dew of heaven from above. You're going to be pushed away from the blessings that come, that just settle. Every morning I get up this time of the year, you walk outside and there's just a settled dew on the ground, and it's a blessing from the Lord, and it's nurturing the ground right now. And the picture is, you're going to be pushed away from this. Verse 40, he says, by your sword you shall live, and your brother you shall serve. But it shall come about when you become restless that you will break his yoke from your neck. And he says, listen, this is the only blessing I can give you is nothing, no blessing. You're not going to have the fruit of the ground. You're not the blessings of heaven are not going to be yours. You're going to have to struggle with your sword to even to live. You're going to have to live by your sword itself. You shall serve your brother. And he says at the end of this, he says, but when it comes about that you shall become restless, there's going to come a day when you're going to want your own dominion. And you'll pull away from him. And so I want you to look at something from chapter 36. They separate here in a moment. We don't see Esau again until chapter 36. But it talks about Esau's children, his offspring. But Esau becomes restless in chapter 36, in verses 6, 7, and 8. It says, then Esau took his wives and his sons and his daughters and all his household and his livestock and all his cattle and all his goods which he had acquired in the land of Canaan, and he went to another land away from his brother Jacob, for their properties had become too great for them to live together, and the land where they sojourned could not sustain them because of their livestock. So Esau lived in the hill country of Seir. Esau is Edom. Esau moved, and I had to look it up just so I could really get my bearings on it. But Mount Seir, the land of Seir, Mount Seir being a mountain range, it's where Petra is today. If you're familiar with your geography, and I know Dave, you've been over to that region, that's the land of Moab, and the land of Edom is from the south end of the Dead Sea south and go west and south of the Dead Sea. All that barren desert, rough terrain is where he moved to. He becomes restless later in life, and he breaks away. He breaks from the yoke of his son, the yoke of the son that now he served. And by the way, we're going to find out in just a moment how long he served him before he broke away. But this is the outcome, and this is where I thought I might spend just a moment in this text. It's in verse 41. It says, "So Esau bore a grudge against Jacob." Esau, as a matter of fact, King James says he hated him. He hated him. Esau hated his brother. What happens when you hate somebody? I don't know if you've ever had it, huh?
It destroys you from within.
That's exactly right. When we hate someone else, it destroys us from within.
Hate yourself, that's the same thing too.
Do what? Hate yourself and do the same thing. Jim, you sound like a man who's been drinking from the same trough I drink out of. Let me share something with you. The writer of the book of Hebrews says this in Hebrews chapter 12, verses 14 to 17. We get some insight into this. He hated his brother, but in Hebrews 12:14, the writer says, "Pursue peace with all men and holiness, without which no one will see the Lord." Pursue it, the sanctification. Pursue holiness. You and I need to be those that are pursuing the godliness, and God is a forgiving God. We're going to see that here as we look at this. Verse 15 of chapter 12 of Hebrews says, "See to it that no one comes short of the grace of God, that no root of bitterness springing up causes trouble, and by it many are defiled." When we have hatred harbored in our heart, bitterness just stews. I don't know if y'all have ever been around black mold. Black mold gets behind the walls, gets under the carpets, it gets in the attic, it gets under the floor joists. Black mold, it kind of digs itself in. Black mold is deadly to us. A person that stays in a home that has that long enough will become very sickly. If they're not taken out and the mold removed, they can die from that. That's this bitterness. It roots itself inside the heart of somebody, and it not only, as Perry shared this morning, there in Joshua chapter 7 with Achan, it not only destroys that one person who's harboring the bitterness, but it destroys people around them as well. How many people died at Ai? 36. Had no idea that Achan had stolen anything from Jericho. It was in him, and his in him destroyed others. Well, see to it that no root of bitterness springing up causing trouble, and by it many be defiled. But verse 16 says that there be no immoral or godly person like Esau. He's the picture that's used right here of this person who has the bitterness, who has the black mold growing in their heart. He says, so that there's no immoral, that the King James says any fornicator or profane person like Esau who sold his own birthright for a single meal. Listen, it's more important for me to satisfy my own personal need right now. But once I'm satisfied, I hate you. That was Esau. He just gave it away And then all of a sudden he has that bitterness that's within him. Verse 17 of Hebrews 12 says, "For you know that even afterwards, when he desired to inherit the blessing, he was rejected, for he found no place for repentance, though he sought it with tears." Esau, he came to his dad, and remember, he's cried out, "Dad, bless me, even me." And it's brought him to tears. But he was so nonchalant, it didn't matter. I'll sell it all just to satisfy now. And once he was satisfied, he could not receive what was his. And because of that, he hated his brother. And out of that hatred grew bitterness. Jesus, I use this often in my own life, in my own heart. I go back and reread just because it safeguards me. But Jesus said this to his disciples when they're talking about, "Lord, teach us how to pray," in Matthew chapter 6. But part of the prayer that Jesus teaches his disciples, verse 11 says, or verse 12 says, "And forgive us of our debt, our sin, as we also forgive others." Jesus says when we pray, "Father, forgive me. Lord, forgive me. I did something yesterday, Lord. I said something to somebody and I shouldn't have said it in that tone. I cut in front of somebody. I was angry at a stoplight. God, forgive me." But then when somebody does it to you and you're not forgiving, Jesus says, "Forgive as God forgives you of your own sin." And Jesus expounds on this in verse 14. He says, "For if you forgive others of their sin, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive," Jesus says, "if you are stubborn, if you think that you're the judge of your brother and sister, if you think you can hold their sin against them, if you do not forgive others, then your Father will not forgive you of your transgressions." That's the Lord Jesus saying that. Beloved, how important do you think it was for Esau to have said, "Lord, I'm going to forgive Jacob. I'm going to do as the Lord has commanded here. I'm going to serve Jacob." He was going to serve him regardless, but he could have forgiven, and he did not. Peter came to Jesus and said, "Lord, how often should I forgive my brother when he sins against me?" And Jesus said, Peter said, "Should I forgive him 7 times?" Jesus said, "No, I'll tell you, not 7 times, but 70 times 7. There's really no end to your forgiveness. I'll be honest with you, folks. I know me, and I know a few of you. I know we're sinners, and we need forgiveness. And beloved, we need forgiveness every day. I'm telling you, we need forgiveness every day. Several times. Thank you, Paul. That's me. And so he says, "How often should I?" He said, and then Jesus gave a parable of 2 men that owed the king a debt. One owed the king 10,000 denarii. An enormous. It's like trying to pay Bill Gates off what he owes. I don't know. I can't get a hold of that. When the numbers on a dollar sign gets past 10, what does that mean? He owed him 10,000 talents of gold. It's enormous. I don't have time to look it all up, but I can tell you that the temple itself didn't cost that much in Jerusalem. Laden with gold on the inside, all precious stones. Beautiful. And God forgave him. But he had someone who owed him $100. The $100 guy didn't have the money to pay, and he choked him until his nose bled, and then threw him into jail. God came and said, I forgave you this large debt. I forgave you of all your sin. Can you not forgive your brother? Listen, should Esau have forgiven Jacob? Because he did not. Because he was so quick to give up everything that he had in this life for soup. That just seems so stupid to me. I use that word again, stupid. I got to quit doing it. My wife gets on to me. It just seems so stupid to me that you would give up everything for something so mundane as pottage, as soup, and then hate your brother. And the root of bitterness flares up. Verse 41, Esau bore a grudge against his brother because of the blessing with which his father had blessed him. And Esau said to himself, the days of mourning for my father are near, and then I will kill my brother Jacob. That's pretty hateful. I tell you, that's just downright mean. You know. Now, when the word of her elder son, Esau, were reported to Rebekah, now she called her younger son Jacob, and she said, oh my goodness, have we not put our foot in it this time? She said to him, behold, your brother Esau is consoling himself concerning you by planning to kill you. He's going to kill you. And he says, now therefore, my son, obey my voice. Obeying her voice is what got him into this, by the way. Obey my voice and rise and go to Haran to my brother Laban. And now, remember, if you'll recall, Haran's a little bit away from here, about 500 miles, through some pretty treacherous desert regions. I tried to figure again today, it'd probably take a month and a half walking to get there, and she says, I want you to go to Haran, go to my brother Laban's house. Verse 44, stay with him for a few days until your brother's fury subsides. Listen, Esau will get over this, Jacob. Esau will calm down. My brother borrowed $20 from me when we were kids. We was living in Texas. I was in 7th grade. How old are you when you're in 7th grade?
12.
12? I was 12. I had a paper route. He had nothing. I made money. He had nothing. He borrowed $20, and he wrote me an IOU payable in, what year was that, niece?
Chrissy was born, so what, 1990, 1991?
Yeah, 1991, I think it was. And in 1991, I pulled out that IOU from when I was 12. And I gave that to him, and he paid. Oh, he didn't like that. Listen, Rebecca says right here, she says, you'll go for just a few days. He'll forget. He didn't forget. You know how long a few days ended up being? Look in chapter 31. Chapter 31, verse 38. All right. Okay, yeah. Genesis 31:38, it says, these 20 years have I been with you. Jacob is at Laban's house for 20 years. And he's taking care of his sheep. 20 years. Go to my brother's house and you'll stay there a few days until your brother's anger's over with, and I'll send for you and you'll come here. 20 years later. 20 years. By the way, we'll find out here in a few weeks, when Jacob does come home, he's scared to death of his brother. As a matter of fact, he divides everything he has up and sends it in 2 different companies just so that one may live if the other's attacked. Everything. Wife, kids, livestock. Go for a few days. Verse 45, until your brother's anger against you subsides, until it's taken away and he forgets what you did to him. And then I'll send for you and get you from there. Why should I be bereaved, or why should I be deprived of you and for both of you in one day? There's no use me losing everything I've got in one day. But then something really strange in verse 46. Rebekah said to Isaac, Rebekah goes into Isaac. Isaac can't see. Rebekah comes in. She's talking now to Isaac. It's probably the close of the day. She's already getting ready to kind of pack up Jacob, her son that she loves, to get rid of him. Rebekah, her emotions are probably tense. I don't know if you've ever been around a woman whose emotions are or rough. I'm not even going to go there. Rebecca comes into Isaac. She says, I'm tired of living. I'm tired of living because of the daughters of Heth. I'm tired of it. She's talking about Esau's wives. Remember, he had 3 at this time. And back here in, what was that? In chapter 20, 20 something right here. Where did I write a note on that? 26, 34. Back in chapter 26 and verse 34, when Esau was 40 years old, he married Judith, the daughter of Beri, the Hittite, and Basemath, the daughter of Elon, the Hittite, and they brought grief to Isaac and Rebekah. Oh, I tell you, when your kids marry the wrong people, she comes in, he says, I am just so weary of my life, the King James says, because of the daughters of Heth. If Jacob takes a wife from the daughters of Heth, like these, from the daughters of this land, what good will my life be? Oh, Isaac, we can't do this any longer. Look what happened to Esau. Look, it's a train wreck with 3 cabooses. I mean, she's setting Isaac up. He can't see. We're not going to get into it, but next week we'll see that Isaac, he does what his wife leads him to do and sends Jacob away. And Isaac never sees him again. How sad, isn't it? Sin, beloved, sin is a terrible deceiver. It will blind us, it will mislead us, and it will cause us heartache